Family in Vlakfontein continues. Now, last week, the Protea Magistrate's Court in Soweto heard that there is no direct evidence linking one of the murder accused to the alleged murder weapon. Now, this emerged during the bail application of Vusi Mabaso and Fita Kupe. Mabaso says Kupe forced him to commit the murders and the rapes. He also said Kupe wanted the family dead so he could take over the house. Now, the remains of the family were found buried under heaps of sand inside their Vlakfontein home south of Johannesburg. Now, reporter Gillian Pillay is at the Protea Magistrate's Court in Soweto to give us the latest. Gillian, a very good morning to you. Very, very emotional scenes that we saw last week in the Protea Magistrate's Court. What are we expecting from today's proceedings?
Certainly very, very emotional scenes from last week's testimony. We really got a sense of what exactly happened to those 7 family members whose remains were found in that home last month, Griselda. But just to give you a sense now of what's expected today, we will see a continuation of poking of holes, as we call it, of accused one, Ernest Mabaso's affidavit, which he put before court. There he implicated accused to Fita Kupe, naming him or implicating him rather as the mastermind, but also a lot of damning evidence saying that Fita was the one who had told him to kill the family members, also raping 3 of the women there among the victims. And what the defense will continue on this whole crusade today is to try and vindicate Fita Kupe and to rather implicate other family members. As we saw last week, we heard about a snare Khoza who could possibly in these proceedings be implicated now as one of the beneficiaries to that Vlakfontein home. We heard there, as you said in your intro, Griselda, that Mabaso alluded to the fact that Fita wanted these family members out. One of the reasons, one of the motives rather, being that he wanted to get the inheritance of the home. But the defense saying here that even if, Fita is involved, he will not get the home. So that particular motive not really standing or holding water in these particular proceedings, Griselda.
Gillian, just looking back to those emotional scenes that we saw last week, we're obviously not expecting it to be any different today as more and more of these details come up. But just talk us through what these families are going through as these details are starting to be laid bare inside this court.
Griselda, it's very difficult for these families to move past the events or the bodies that they discovered in that home last month. And they have told us every time they come to court, it's that wound that can never heal. And more details are coming out, and it's becoming very difficult. So we saw a lot of emotional scenes last week, Griselda, when those details of what exactly happened, those last moments of their family members, very gruesome, very macabre details of what exactly happened. The court proceedings had to be adjourned because, just for many family members to compose themselves when that affidavit was being read out. So, yes, even though we won't really have the gravity of those kinds of details again today, Griselda, and we do apologize for the noise here because it's some officials that is planning ahead of proceedings. But although we won't have those kinds of details again today, there are intermittent moments where the defense have said to the magistrate, I do apologize for having to speak about how they died, and then he would go, not in much graphic detail, but he would then go on his, questioning around how they died and trying to not link his client to those details, but very emotional scenes. And we can expect those emotional scenes from time to time from these proceedings, Griselda, as we've seen in previous weeks.
Gillian Pillay, our reporter there at the Protea Magistrate's Court in Soweto, as that bail application of the 2 suspects linked to the Vlakfontein murders continues in that particular court this morning. Moving on to another story.